Hey everyone, it's Arsenal Fan Circle, and this is the show you cannot live without. I say sometimes. This is a fan chat thing we're going to do this season, season three here, and want to introduce my co-host Gunded News and Gary.
Well,
Regular faces you're seeing, so we're forming a great dynamic here on the channel now. We're getting great chemistry, and if you haven't had a chance, check out the podcast we did on Thursday. It was a really, really good one. But also want to welcome Charlie Walsh here, a top lad, a West Ham fan. So thanks for joining us, Charlie.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for having me.
All right. So we do have a game a little bit later. It's a kind of a different kind of hour, 8 o'clock UK time. And yeah, it's strange. I'm not going to lie. My here, it's going to be very, very late for you, right?
I think it's about 9 o'clock. By the time the game's done, it's like maybe midnight. It might be closer towards 11:30.
Yeah, we're going to get into a few things. What's going on at West Ham? Hopefully, Charlie can fill us in on that on the field and off the field. We want to know what's happening with our former Arsenal players, Jack Wilshere being one of them, and we want to know from Charlie who's the danger man, who's possibly going to score against us today. So take it away, Charlie. Give us all the information.
I was going to say, who's going to score? I mean, is there any going to be goals? This start with Jack Wilshere, I guess. You know what's going on with him because the same that always goes on with him. Nothing really. He's just sort of about. He's in the injury room doing his thing. You know, it just is what it is. I think he joined us 2 years ago now, 2 summers ago, and he's played, I think, in the meantime about 18 games, something like that. He's been really good when he's on the pitch, but he's never on the pitch, and it's just kind of depressing in that sense. But that's Jack Wilshere, innit? It's just the way he is. He's a broken boy, but he's very good. We're looking at the moment to try and release him, basically. There's currently conversations going on at the club about he's got 1 year left on his contract. He's on 100k a week-ish, which for West Ham is astronomical figures. It makes him like one of the top 5 highest paid players in the squad. And we're looking to sort of come up with a deal, which means he leaves on a free this summer. Either we cancel his contract or a club comes in and they basically have him for free as long as they take the wages. Talks about Inter Miami and places like that. The usual suspects you would suspect for taking a sort of a slightly aging English player who's very good still, but at the same time is aging, which is a shame because he's really good. Like, let's be real.
Still in his 20s though. So hopefully he can make that comeback, and we all want to see Jack Wilshere playing again. Such a great talent. Let's go to Gary and here. Gary, for me, that Jack Wilshere game will always be, I guess, the Barcelona game in the Champions League.
yes, definitely. Yeah, I mean, he's had some really good games. I mean, unfortunately, we haven't seen it, enough that we would like,
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
And another goal I remember against Manchester City were part of that 2-2 draw. Well, a quick word on Jack Wilshere as well. It's just a shame when a player of his talent is going to possibly look back at his playing days, and injuries will have played a huge part in a negative way on his career.
Yeah, I mean, especially during the fact that when a player comes into any squad with a lot of potential, and you think, hey, this guy can kick on in the next few years and become something, and then injuries come along, and more injuries, and some horrific injuries, possibly even, and it just derails a player's career almost completely, And I mean, he featured in a lot of very good games that we remember him quite fondly for. And it's just a shame that, I mean, even with his move, even with his move to West Ham, he's barely featured. He's barely featured for them.
Yeah. So that's Jack Wilshere. Hopefully he can find the club. Hopefully he can return to fitness, and hopefully we'll see some more good football from Jack. But Charlie, let's get into what's the politics over at West Ham. What's going on with the ownership? Educate me a little bit.
What's not going on is maybe a better question. There's a lot right now. It's all a sort of big wildfire of insanity. it's obviously, so they've been here 10 years. They came in January 2010. And they like to spin it as they saved the club, because when they came in, we were in a lot of debt. Our previous ownerships were an Icelandic consortium who, during the credit crunch in 2008, had gone bust. They'd lost all of their money overnight. They'd gone from essentially billionaires to having literally nothing overnight. And that meant we were in the ownership at that point of the Icelandic banks, which was just weird because obviously they got taken off them because they're in administration and bankruptcy. And so when they came in, we were in about £100 million of debt, and looked like we were in sort of financial struggles. So they like to spin it as if they saved West Ham, like no one else would have bought West Ham, which is a lie, because they were literally outbidding other people to buy West Ham. So that makes no sense, but it is what it is. At first, it was a situation where there was positivity around it, because new ownership, you get a bit of a buzz. You're like, okay, maybe we're going to start moving in the right direction. And in the same way you do when you get a new manager, you know, there's an excitement and a hype almost to it, which was fine, because that first season I think we became like 16th or something. It wasn't exactly great, but we had Zola as our manager who refused to not play nice football. We had like some good young exciting players in the squad and everything. Anyway, so then they hired Avram Grant. And that was the beginning. That was the beginning of the problems, because Avram Grant, apart from that one like 6-month spell in Chelsea where he was actually fine, has roundly been terrible. And we finished dead last, bottom of the league. We had Mido on loan, Benny McCarthy. We had just a range of horrendous players that he brought in. And that was the beginning of the end. And it never that sort of sums it up, really. We have this tendency of hiring the wrong people and not supporting them, really, if I'm being perfectly honest. And that's where a lot of the problems come in. It's although you look at the stadium, and that's obviously a gigantic thing, as you guys know, like when you move stadium, it's a really difficult process, really difficult, not only for the fans but for the team as well, to actually adjust to a new thing like that. It's huge. And like, I know when you moved, you went through a period of struggling as well. The problem is at least you had a good stadium to move to. Like the Emirates is not as good as Highbury. Like, having been to both, like, I loved Highbury more than I love the Emirates, but the Emirates and the Olympic Stadium are like two completely different things. Like the Olympic Stadium is so bad. It's so horrendously bad to go watch football in, to play football in. Like,
it's not really a football stadium, right?
Everything about it. It's just, if you're going there to watch The Who, excellent. You're probably having a whale of a time. If you're going there to watch Usain Bolt, it's going to be grand. If you're going there to watch football, it's you might as well just stay at home. The amount of times I go to football games and we have a conversation between like me and my friends, and when it gets to game time, like we'll be in Stratford at a pub or whatever, and we get to game time, we're just like, oh, we've got to go to the stadium now. And it's just it's so bad. And that's just they keep making mistakes. Like the ownership have never really consistently been all right. And even when they have made a good decision, for example, hiring Slaven Bilic, or arguably hiring Manuel Pellegrini, although Pellegrini is an iffy one, but let's say Slaven Bilic, because I think everyone was roundly like, okay, they just never backed him. They never gave him the funds. They never gave him transfer control. Every single transfer was still the board making stuff they like from agents. They have friends who are agents who they then go and make deals with and get players from. There's never been any consistency, and that's what we're seeing. We look at the team, and it's 11 random blokes brought together by a succession of different managers who all play different styles of football. There's no continuity. There's no nothing. It's just a mess. And that's what you're seeing on the pitch now. It comes on the pitch and in the stands. There's protests going on every game. Just today, there will be people outside the Emirates. It is what it is at this point.
Gary, we can definitely relate to that. Every manager does need to be backed. Even Arteta, he's only going to take our squad so far. So every manager does need that financial backing to bring in their own players.
Yeah, listening to the Westfield struggles, I'm like, well, we have our struggles too, but they're a little bit different. We seem to have somebody who's handed over the keys, and we don't know who's driving sometimes. And same thing. You want a plan that you think's going to work. You want to see a plan that you see executed the way that you would expect it to be, and you still don't see it. And so I hear your struggles. I feel for you, and we have different ones, but we have struggles as well. And hopefully, the times and will change as we go along with Arteta, at least, because he seems to be the linchpin that will keep things hopefully moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and as long as just speaking about Arteta, as long as he speaks in reality in terms of what he's going to do, he can 90 or 95% commit to that. Like saying he's going to try to bring Ceballos back, he got it done. Sign Aubameyang up, he got it done. The club got it done. So these are things that West Ham fans want to see as well with the ownership. And I'm going to come to you, Charlie, in a second about where you think you may finish this season. I've heard even some fans talking about dropping down would be a good thing. So let's talk about that in a second. But I want to go to Mahir just to get his take on it as well. And, you know, Mahir, all fans want to do, whether it be Arsenal fans, West Ham fans, alien fans, whatever, they want to know that their team is run to sort of win things. And sure, we understand in this day and age it's a business, but the business model has to include being competitive and trying to win things, or trying to be as good as you can in the league.
I mean, the more that happens on, the more everything else in the background will fall into place. So, for example, with us winning cups, or any team winning cups or getting into European competitions, brings more money in order to buy better players.
Yeah.
And therefore, everything else, such as, even like the stewards and everybody else, can keep their jobs as well, because we're doing better in all aspects of the club.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody here in the chats. Norma, Sam, Stephen Denham, who's always here. Thanks, Stephen. And Alex just dropped in as well. So thanks, Alex. Charlie, talking about the Premier League has just become a cash cow. It's a business now, and clubs have probably been forced into being more of a business model than a sporting model, if you know what I mean. So speak to a little bit about where you think, I know you might finish. Are you for or against dropping down and getting the parachute payments? All of that stuff, you know?
Yeah. It was just listening to you guys. I think it is true. We're both clubs who are sort of underperforming due to bad ownership. And that's sort of, relatable. I think when it comes to us, I'm against going down in general.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm not someone who thinks it's the end of the world. There's a lot of people. When it comes to getting relegation, there's sort of two schools of thought, and it's one, we go down and we can actually sort ourselves out, refresh everything, start to rebuild and stuff like that. Or there's the second school of thought, which is we go down and we do a Sunderland that we never come back up, or a Portsmouth, or whoever else.
Yeah.
For me personally, I don't think going down's a good idea. I don't think it's the end of the world. I think, but under the current ownership, I can't see a situation in which we would come back up as successfully as we did last time. Last time when we got relegated, we brought in Sam Allardyce, who dragged us kicking and screaming back up, whether we liked it or not. He brought in your Joey O'Briens, he brought in your Kevin Nolans, and he's like, right, we're going up. I don't care what you think, we're going up. But we don't have that now. We don't have a Sam Allardyce type guy who can do that.
It's like you take the plug out of the sink, and if you get swept down into that league, it's different kind of football as well, and it's a lot more difficult. It's not as easy as fans would think to come back up once you get into that scrap. You know what I mean?
Massively so, and I think that league is only getting better as well. When you look at your Brentfords, who like Brentford 5 years ago would have got promoted, and this year they had 3 teams who are better than them. The league just keeps getting better and better and better, and teams in there are becoming better and better and more well run. Look at Leeds. Leeds have Marcelo Bielsa, who's one of the most, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Influential managers, progressive managers of the last 10 years, and he's been in the Championship Leagues. That's how good that league is. Like, let's not knock it. But when it comes to where we're going to finish, there is a huge threat of relegation. I think we're one of the favourites to go down, unfortunately, and that's a mixture of both because of Moyes and because of the ownership. Most people are very scared and think we probably will. I think if you asked West Ham fans now, if if you put out a tweet with a poll, you'd probably get 60% plus saying we're going to get relegated. I think we'll be safe, but not. I don't think we're going to get mid-table. I don't think anything like that. I think we'll be safe in a sort of 15th, 16th position.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good season. And Charlie, I got to be honest with you. I think there's probably 3 or 4 teams that are probably going to be worse off than West Ham this season.
That's the hope. That's the hope, and that's the depressing thing in a way. Is it's like we're sort of hoping that there's 3 teams worse than us, as opposed to us being so good. But yeah, I agree.
All right, I'm going to go around to Gary and Mahir. Mahir, give us your honest assessment about West Ham, and be honest. It's okay if you think they're going to get relegated.
I won't listen. I promise I won't listen. It's okay, guys. Be honest. It's fine.
Look, I haven't.
The viewers will smell bullshit, Mahir, so give them a straight up.
They definitely smell it. But from what I know is, I haven't watched much. You just hear in the background basically all the troubles that the lower teams go through. So I haven't yet picked teams that I would see to seeing get relegated. I'm sure there are 3 worse teams than West Ham that are probably going to go down.
Yeah, West Brom and Fulham are 2 off the top of my head, which I think will struggle. And that's the difficult thing as well, Gary. When a team comes up from the league below, we think Leeds are very progressive and they'll probably be okay. But the other 2 teams, it's a quandary of whether they're going to invest to stay in the Premier League or sort of keep that money and keep a good financial footing.
Yeah, and I took a look at the West Ham game last night, and having watched the Arsenal game a couple of times, you can see the difference between Leeds and Fulham. And the one thing that I think that West Ham has ahead of those teams is they have been in the league, so they know a little bit about this. And that Newcastle game, when I looked at it, it was a back and forth game. West Ham didn't get the chances that they would have liked, and that's the thing that going into this game, kind of I'm like, well, if this is the game that they showcase. We don't know what we saw in that last game. That's the West Ham we're going to see today, or is that just the first game jitters like we saw from like a Fulham who came out kind of a little bit behind the 8 ball, kind of still trying to figure things out on how they would go, because we know towards the end of the season we saw Antonio go in and score 8 goals in 3 games or 5 games, was it, right?
Yeah.
So the goals are there, and he's a big, strong lad that going down, can control the game if he needs to, and if you give him the chance, he will. So, yeah.
I love how scared fans are of Antonio. Like, as a West Ham fan, and I'm ever so slightly in a minority in this, I think he's so bad. I look at him and I'm like, my man, he's big and he's strong and he's fast, and I give him that. But he doesn't. When you watch a player who can't dribble, they pass the ball ahead of them and then chase it. That's what he does. But the beauty of Antonio is that he doesn't even know what he's going to do. So there's no chance defenders know. And I love this every time, because I can see Glenn in the chat, who my friend Tom was on his show a couple of days ago. And again, they brought him up again, and I saw the chat there going, oh, man, Antonio, he's scary. I'm scared of Antonio. I'm like, mate, just let him wobble himself out of play. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's good. I promise you, it's fine. He'll take a shot from 30 yards. It'll end up hitting someone outside the stadium. It's good. I promise you. But yeah.
We've had players like that. I think Theo Walcott springs to mind for me. Yeah. Stephen said, what games are we watching today? There's only one game today, Stephen. It is Arsenal West Ham.
There's another game, though.
Yeah, go for it.
There's another game, though. I think it's Manure United.
Yeah.
Taking on, I'm not sure who they're taking on, but I would love to see them lose, and then for us to, unfortunately, emphatically beat West Ham. Put in a good performance.
So, Charlie, we all know our rivals. Is Chelsea your main rivals in the Premier League, or is there any other grudge matches?
I think it's how you have the thing with Spurs, and the problem with Spurs is for a long time they were just below you, and yet they were still punching up as if you cared, whereas you were having your actual battles with Man United and Chelsea for winning their league, right?
Yeah.
It's a bit like that with us. We look at Spurs and we think, oh, they're our rivals, and Spurs are looking down at us and thinking, who are you even? What are you talking about? Like, you're fighting for relegation and we're trying to get into Europe, like that sort of thing. So it's that and Chelsea. They're the two big ones in the Premier League. Obviously, Millwall is forever existing, but they're the most irrelevant club in the world, so it makes no difference to anyone. But yeah, they're the big rivals. Me personally, I don't hold any ill will against anyone. You know what I mean? I live with a Manchester United fan. I've had bosses who are Chelsea fans, Tottenham fans. I'm fine with everyone, but Sam, you're deluded, my friend. But yeah, so when it comes to on a club level, it's Spurs Chelsea.
All right. So if Antonio's not going to score, who's the danger man today, Charlie, for West Ham?
So if you look at the Newcastle lineup, I suspect it will be exactly the same. David Moyes is very, very stubborn and very conservative in his lineup. Tends to pick the exact same thing every time. So when you look at the lineup, I suspect it will be Fabianski in goal. Fredericks at right back, centre back pairing of Diop and Ogbonna, left back Aaron Cresswell, central midfield three of Declan Rice, Mark Noble, and Thomas. Well, it could be Thomas Souček, or it could be someone else. We'll see. That depends on if Souček's actually fit. And then a front three of Jared Bowen on the right, Mikel Antonio down the middle, and probably Pablo Fornals on the left. Dangerman, it is Antonio because he's literally the only striker, and the way David Moyes plays is that he very much isolates the forward, especially when you come up against a big team like Arsenal. We play unbelievably defensive, counter-attacking, smash and grab football. So what you're likely to see is us sitting deep, trying to be as compact as possible and strong as possible. And then the second you lose possession, we pump it long in the sort of vague area of Mikel Antonio and hope he can do something magical. That's probably what you're going to see. So when it comes to Dangerman, he's the big one. Jared Bowen, we signed from Hull last season in January, and he was absolutely brilliant. That second half of the season, he was electric. He makes incredible runs. He's a bit like Pepe. It's a good look at Pepe. Nowhere near as good, don't get me wrong. But stylistically, he's a lot like Pepe. He picks up the ball. He's running towards goal. He's trying to make things happen. He's trying to pop off shots. He's very effective at it. The couple of people to watch out for, if we start Sebastian Haller in the 6-yard box, in and around that 6-yard box, lethal. The guy scores goals. He's this big, complete target man forward. He can pass. He can do everything. And again, a lot of the time we end up isolating him, and that's not the thing to do. But if he gets in and around that area, he can score. The other person to look out for, again, we might start him because he had an incredible game against Charlton midweek. And I don't know if we will, Yarmolenko. Yarmolenko is a worldie. My man can take shots from outside the area, and they will be on target. He has great ball control. He's slow. He's slow as all hell. I'm probably faster than Yarmolenko, and I think my BMI is currently obese. But he is a baller, and he will get shots on target, and he will make Leno work. So they're the ones to look out for. But from the starting 11, Antonio.
Yeah, we actually have a couple of slow players in our team, especially one in midfield.
Sure.
QE2 is a little bit faster than him. The Assemble, thanks for joining us as well. Gary and Mahir, we're going to go through and highlight the Arsenal team. I think it'll be very much the same as last week, but I do think with Ceballos having come on, and that Ceballos will come in instead of Elneny, and Elneny will probably play in the Leicester game, and that's how he's going to work it. So he'll be able to rotate Ceballos back in against Liverpool next weekend. I think the front will be pretty much the same. Pepe is going to sit again, probably play in the Leicester game also. So it'll be Willian, Lacazette, and Aubameyang. And in midfield, it'll be Xhaka and Ceballos. Now, Gary, there's a little bit of question mark. Arteta has said David Luiz is available, or he didn't say he was available for selection. He said he was available for tomorrow in the press conference, Gary.
Yeah, and I mean, if he's ready to play, then I say we should play him because I think we'll need him to be ready for the Liverpool game. Mm-hmm. If not, then I think we would stick with the same back three that we had in the previous game and use that in our Liverpool. I kind of like having that continuity from game to game, especially at least for the first three, and then we'll see where we go from there. So I'm looking forward. I mean, the team looked good in the last game. Luiz definitely will provide a little bit better solid back if he's back. If he's fully back. If he's iffy, then I don't know if we want to bring him back too soon. If it's a neck issue, who knows? Is he going to be clearing a lot of balls? I don't know. Depends on what's going on in front of him.
for Charlie, that might be a key note to cling on to. David Luiz might be a bit rusty if he does play. You might be able to get some change out of him. We know he's always likely to have a mistake in him. And Gary actually tweeted me, he DM'd me about, if we can keep 11 on the field, Arsenal are pretty good, but that has been the problem. And maybe one in every 5 games, David Luiz does have one of those kind of games, Charlie. So something to cling to there. Mahir, what do you think about our lineup? And it looks like Everton are going to be a decent team this season, 5-2 up on West Brom with Kieran Gibbs sent off. Istanbul said, "You Spurs can only look up to Arsenal. They don't win trophies no matter where we finish. They have to look up." Well, we've been looking up at them in the last few seasons, but hopefully, surely this season, not that Spurs are a marker to us, but we need to finish above them first and foremost in the season. Mahir, the team for Arsenal.
3-4.
3-4-3. Yeah, it's becoming a familiar formation. Team pretty much picks itself, apart
Pretty
from
much.
the back three, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think that-
Tierney, David Luiz, and maybe Holding.
Yeah. Or
is the way I see
Tierney,
it.
David Luiz, Gabriel, and then two wingbacks, Ainsley Maitland and Tierney and Ainsley Maitland, if I'm not mistaken. And then the same midfield and the same striking force, same 3: Willian, Ober, Laka.
Yeah, definitely. So Charlie, let's look back to March. We did beat West Ham at the Emirates before lockdown. It was the last game. I actually tweeted after that game it was probably going to be the last game we're going to see from Arsenal in a long while because of things that were happening there, re-COVID and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But you actually caused us a lot of problems on the day.
Yeah, I think you're a much better side than you are now than you were then, to be fair. I think as Arteta's sort of grown into his role, I think he's becoming better and better. I think when you hired him, from my perspective, it was one of those things where it was a perspective thing. It was a potential thing. You're hiring a guy who sort of has a lot of the good traits that you want, and it's about making the bet that he can sort of make it to that top level of management. And I think he's showing that. I think as Arteta gets better, I think he's just becoming better and better. He's getting more and more time. He's learning, like, your sort of fluidity and tactics at times has been really, really good. And so I think you're a different prospect than you were then. But we do cause the bigger teams troubles, and that's because of the way we play. We are under David Moyes. We are a stubborn defensive side who aren't good enough defensively to be defensive. But that's what we do. We try and pack out the box. We try and get as many people back as possible, and that does cause bigger teams problems because that means you're obviously more likely to play attacking football than we are, and that means when you step to us, we're just going to boot it along to players who have any pace, like Antonio or Bowen, and Bowen's not enough.
Yeah.
But and I suspect that's what you'll see again. It's weird, and I've said this to some of my West Ham fans, and they think I'm a slight maniac, but I'm more confident against Arsenal than I am against a team like Newcastle. Like, Newcastle are equally defensive, equally, to be frank, boring, equally like crap. And what they do is it's two North Poles. They can't push each other. So we just try and counterattack each other, and it turns into a really dull game. And we're not good at breaking down teams who are tight and defensive. Whereas you're obviously going to get a bit more freedom against us today. You're going to be able to step to us a little bit more, do a bit more, get your whatever combination of horrendously good front men you want to play. It makes no difference. They're all equally scary. And that's why it's going to be difficult. It makes me more confident. Now, spoilers, it doesn't make me confident enough to predict a win, but it is a situation in which I think we do play a little bit better. Look at the Chelsea we played last season. We ended up beating them 3-2. And it was for the exact same reasons. They were playing open, expansive football. They were trying to get to us a bit more. And then we just ended up hitting them on the counter-attack like 3 times in a row. And we got the win against them 3-2. So, in an ideal world, like, let's say the plan goes perfect for West Ham today, it is still a counter-attacking victory, but one in which we managed to scrap a 2-1 or a 3-2 or whatever.
Yeah, very, very. It's going to be interesting how the game comes down, and I'm going to go to Gary after this comment here from Stephen Denham. Luis was getting sent off because of other players' mistakes. He wasn't always to blame, and that's correct. He was trying to cover for what we call Colonel Mustard here, Mustafi. But yeah, he was trying to cover for the inadequacies of other players. Gary, as Charlie just mentioned, and I'm going to say, speaking for West Ham here, and it's very familiar to us, because we've seen Emery in the last season. If you set out to be negative, you want to be cautious and set out to be negative to get a result. And Arsenal has struggled against teams who have been in the low block. But on the other hand, as a West Ham fan, you want to go and attack. And we've been vulnerable against, as Charlie said, we're very similar in that way. We can get the great results against the big teams because they're going to come out and play. But when we play teams that are mid-table and down from that, we Arsenal encounter problems, and West Ham too as well. So it's a funny, interesting dynamic today.
Yeah. So listening to Charlie talk about West Ham, one of the things that I want to see from our team is a combination of patience and go. There's going to be if we're patient enough, they will give us the spots, and then when things open up, the field split, the defense is moving back and forth, then we should go and just attack, and then be patient, be disciplined in our attack, so we're not leaving ourselves open for the counter. But that's what I'm looking forward to, is that patience and go, discipline, and we'll be fine, I believe. From what I've seen, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. And that's one of the things that we have to keep in mind is when we play the big teams, we play a certain way. When we play the smaller teams, the teams lower on the table, we try sometimes change up. And I'm kind of like to see a little bit more consistency in what we do, and think we can still play. We could probably still play the same game. We may spread it out a little bit more and give ourselves more chances. Those are the big games that we play. We get less chances. These ones we're going to expect to get more, maybe not as much as we want, but when we do get them, it should be quality ones that we can put away. And eventually, my thought is hopefully that we're able to jump on it pretty early in the game, get a couple of scores, and then be able to ride it home.
Yeah. Mahir, your thoughts as well on what we've just been talking about, the low block. West Ham and Arsenal are very similar in terms of we're able to pull out the big results. We're inconsistent teams. That's what it is. We've been inconsistent. West Ham have too.
You see these different approaches to different sorts of teams, different strategies, either high press or low block, such as, maybe against a team like West Ham, they will be able to actually catch us on a counter if they're patient enough. Then again, if some of our pacier players, I would say the likes of like a Willian, Aubameyang, decide to do a little bit of trickery and pull them or draw them all towards one or two people, I'm sure we'll be able to find maybe a few pockets. And personally, my prediction which I'm sure we'll go through predictions very soon as well, is quite a high-scoring prediction.
Yeah, exactly. Charlie, let's have you answer this question from Stephen Denham there. What are your thoughts on Pepe?
I think he's really freaking good. I understand why. The thing is, whenever a player comes in for an extortionately high fee like he did, and it's similar to us with, say, Sebastian Haller, expectations get risen so high that it's almost impossible to meet. And I think a lot of players, when they get signed as key star men, struggle under that pressure a bit. They struggle to live up to that. But when I look at Pepe, I just think he's so talented. A key example was when we faced you, and he basically ruined Aaron Cresswell's year. It was depressing to watch as a West Ham fan. Aaron Cresswell ended up going off injured, and just on his way out, he ended up just basically two-footing him. And he's just so talented. Like when you watch him on the ball, he's got all of he can dribble, he can shoot, he can do a bit of everything. And I think it's one of those situations where I don't even know if he's fully adapted, and that's what's even scarier. Is potentially by the end of the season you're looking at a completely different beast. Like Willian's come in and is playing in his position, but Willian also, we all know, has a sort of he's got a ticking time clock over him age-wise. He's been brilliant and he will be brilliant for you, but you've got this guy Pepe just waiting basically. And once he's fully in his stride, I think there'll be few wingers in the Premier League better than him. I really do rate him that highly.
Yeah. One in my notes, I do have Pepe on the list there. I mean, I hope he gets to play today. I hope he gets to play a lot today. You know, even if he doesn't start, I'd like to see him get at least 30 minutes out there. And, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing him do good things, big things this year. So I'm hoping that we get to see a lot more of him, and we get to see, you know, see him put that ball in the back of the net, or, you know, set up a lot of his teammates. So, yeah.
Good stuff, Gary. All right, so let's get into predictions. And Charlie, we're going to have a couple more podcasts today. You're very, very welcome to join. If you're being a night owl, we're going to go at 1:30 your time. So if you're available and you want to jump on, or if you don't want to at all, we really appreciate your time today. And, no, really, really great to have you on. And on the flip side, when we go to your stadium, it's not what is it now? The Millennium Stadium? I forget what it's called.
It's currently called the London Stadium, just so you remember where it is. Don't worry, guys. It's in London, so it's somewhere in over there. It's good. It's good.
So we'll definitely have you back when time allows on the return fixture. But your predictions today, Charlie?
Okay. So if David Moyes pulls a surprise rabbit out of the hat, I think we lose 3-2. And that's if he pulls a big surprise. And by big surprise, I mean isn't David Moyes for 5 minutes. Unfortunately, he is David Moyes, and he's always going to be David Moyes. We're going to come out, we're going to set up the same way we always do. We're going to try and defend. It's not going to work. We're going to get beat 3-0. I don't see us scoring. We don't support the striker enough, unless, like I say, Antonio does something magical. Then I don't think we'll get any goals. I think 3-0, and I think we'd look at it probably at the end of the game. I do a watch along with my friend on Hammers Chat. We do a watch along for the game, and I suspect we'll sit at the end of it and go, yeah, that's probably about right, 3-0. I think that's what's going to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, Mahir, I tend to think we're going to get that win. We're playing quite well right now, Charlie, but it's not going to be easy, and we're going to have problems with West Ham. The longer, obviously, Mahir, the game goes on, the more nervous Arsenal will get. Probably we have the advantage with the current situation that the crowds are not there to get on the players, in the players' heads. And Arteta is using all of that to his advantage as well, in terms of barking whatever language he's using instructions to his players. So I think Arsenal have really benefited from the circumstances in going on in the world right now. And we do all hope that comes to an end soon, and crowds will be able to come back to the stadiums, and they can bring their binoculars, in your case, Charlie, to be able to see the players. Well, Mahir, what's your prediction?
4-0. I went to that prediction on my channel, here on YouTube, and I'm not going to go back on my word, although I do think it's actually going to be 3-0.
3-0. Okay, so a clear-cut victory. And, you know, Charlie, we do need these points. We've got difficult games coming up.
I mean, just quickly, have you seen our run-in, by the way? I don't know if any of you have seen it. Right, I'll just put it up very quickly, because you're going to laugh your head off, because we're in a desperate situation where we really need to get points anywhere we can, because our next run-in, just for context in the Premier League, so we have you guys today, obviously, away. Then we have Wolverhampton at home, followed by Leicester City away, Tottenham away, Man City at home, Liverpool away, and then we have a little bit of a runway to get. So until November, we're in a situation where potentially no points, guys. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but there's a sort of thing there. At some point, we're going to have to get a surprise win. I don't think it will be today, but at some point, it's going to happen. But we're in the doldrums, boys.
And look, I think that's what West Ham does. I think you specialize in getting results where you don't really think you're going to get 3 points. It happens, you know. You're not going to beat Newcastle, but you're going to beat City. You know
one can only hope. I reckon. I agree. I reckon it'll be Leicester, but we'll see what happens.
And Leicester, Leicester are not the team that they were last season. I believe they're going to struggle as well. Gary, give us your sage opinion on the game today.
Yeah, I mean, my score, my prediction's always been 4-1. But the more and more you listen, you hear, you're like, is that a little too much? Are we asking too much? And hearing about the run-in that West Ham has, you figure they are going to play better in one of those games than you're expecting. Could it be this today? I hope not. But yeah, I'm going to stick with my 4-1. I'd like to see us improve from the last week. There were some opportunities in the last match that we did not capitalize on. I'd like to see them be able to do that this week, which would mean if we're able to do that on the offensive side, we'll be able to get those 4 goals. We may let one in because of that, but I'm going to stick with my number. I'm sorry. I hope hopefully next week you'll get that win that'll surprise you.
Listen, Gary, you're my favorite person. You've predicted us to score a goal. I'm loving life right now. I'm having a whale of a time. Let's go, boys. Yes.
All right. So Charlie, that means I've got to amend my original prediction. So I'm going to give you a goal. Originally, I was thinking we're going to win. I was thinking we're going to win 2-0, but you never know. It always depends. Do you have problems as a West Ham fan with the kind of referee you're going to be given on the day, or is this just an Arsenal gripe?
To be honest with you, I think it's a gripe for most teams. I think most teams get frustrated at what referees they're given at the time. I tend to. I'm at the stage where I just look at it as like the referees are the referees, and c'est la vie. We deal with it like Bewitched said, c'est la vie. We move on, sort of thing. But yeah.
Let's dip into VAR, Charlie. Have you had any issues with VAR last season? I don't know. I'm just asking.
Yeah, we had a couple. There were 1 or 2. For example, there was a goal that literally just wasn't a goal that was given because of VAR, but it wasn't. We've had a few problems. I'm personally, in general, in favour of VAR because I think the referees need help, clearly. And the game is so fast that it needs to happen. But there are obviously changes that need to be made. But yeah.
Well, the referees are like that gardener. They've got all these tools in the shed, but they're so stubborn they just want to use one tool. And they're not going to use the other tools. So hopefully this season they do come to the pitch side monitor, Gary, a little bit more and review things and have a little bit of humility. Gary, yep.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking. Yeah, I'm hoping that happens a lot more this year. We got penalized, it seemed, when the referee wouldn't even go over there and take a look at the monitor. So I'm looking forward to hopefully, they're going to improve just like everybody else and, improve the system a little bit better. I think it definitely changes the game when you see the defense maybe hesitate just for a second because they know the balls, they know that the player's offsides, but they have to keep playing. You got to play to the whistle. And that's hard to do after who knows how many years have they played where they knew they put out the other team off sides, but nope, the whistle didn't go. So you recover. And, if you can do that, that's good. If not, you could get punished for it, especially if it goes against you.
Yeah. Mahir Stephen said people doing the fixtures mustn't like Arsenal or West Ham, but it's kind of nice because you if the game was on earlier, there's fans all around the world, West Ham fans and Arsenal fans. They watch all around the world, and someone maybe in Australia they're going to hit a nice time zone where they're able to have a comfortable lunch or whatever, comfortable dinner, and enjoy some footy as well, Mahir. So big up to all the fans worldwide who follow their teams. You know what I mean? So we're going to stick around for a few more minutes. If anyone else has some questions, then we're going to get out of here. Do join us. We're going to do a pre-game podcast an hour before kickoff when the lineups are announced. We'll be able to see if our lineups are correct, if Charlie predicted his lineup correct. I actually have a feeling, Charlie, that David Moyes is going to go a little bit adventurous. read the teams, the players he brought in the cup games. It's away from home. The pressure should be off him a little bit, and I think that's when West Ham come to the fore a little bit in those games.
Yeah, I think he's got nothing to lose by changing it, realistically. He started with the same lineup that he ended with last season, partly because he is so stubborn, but I think partly also to reward those players for keeping us up and being like, do you know what, fair play. You did your thing. Let's see if we can do it again. Now, it went very poorly for him. The cup went very well. The notable performances from that game were Yarmolenko, Lanzini, and Anderson. And if you, there's an opportunity for one of those players to come in. We've been playing a sort of Mark Noble is sort of a 10, a makeshift 10, just behind the striker, which is wild because that's just not Mark Noble. So there's definitely an opportunity for potentially Lanzini, who Moyes does very much like, to come in, for example. So there's maybe one or two players you could see be a surprise inclusion, as it were. I'm just so defeatist about David Moyes that I do think he'll just stick to the same. But there's a couple of names that might cause him difference. We might, for example, see Ben Johnson, who's our youth right back.
Yeah,
he started against Charlton, had a very good game. Fredericks is not good in any way, shape, or form, but he just is senior, so he exists in that right back slot. So, for example, you may see Ben Johnson, and he has something to prove. So that might be a situation where actually you want to play Ben Johnson against a better team because he's going to put in 10,000% effort to at least try and do something. So we might see that as well.
And Charlie, not that you want to see a coach sacked, but is that something that would sort of help the situation? And what does your academy look like? Is there any young players coming through?
There was one coming through, which caused a giant furore, which you probably all heard about, which was Diangana. Grady Diangana, who was coming through. Right. He played 21 games for us 2 seasons ago, went out on loan to West Brom last season, was one of their players of the season, came back, killed it in pre-season, and then was sold to West Brom, which no one was happy about. Everyone wanted him to stay, including the players. Mark Noble, our captain, tweeted out that he was very angry about the sale. All of the players were commenting on his Instagram post and everything. That's one of the big problems the owners have had over the last 6 months. He was the big one. Obviously, Declan Rice, everyone is aware of because he's Declan Rice. Apart from that, though, there's a couple of youth players. Ben Johnson, the right back. We only have one right back apart from him, so he's going to get game time. And then we got one or two little sparks here and there. Connor Coventry's a midfielder. Baptiste is a centre back who you might keep an eye on that might appear. But in general, the academy is not what it once was. Managerially, listen, who else is going to take the job is the problem. We're not an attractive club right now. We're not a club who supports their manager. We're not a club who have a better manager would help.
You have a history. You have a history there, Charlie. And hopefully, you have a situation like we have where a former player maybe is doing something good and comes back to the club because they have that love for the badge.
Yeah, the big one at the moment, Kevin Nolan is currently our assistant manager. He had some experience managing a couple of lower league clubs in the last couple of years who did very well. He's currently our assistant manager. Kevin Nolan is a divisive figure because he's Kevin Nolan. He is both a prick and wonderful at the exact same time. Exactly. Big elbows on the boy. You know what I mean? He just needs corners. He's there. But it's a potential situation where if it goes horrendously wrong, he could step in as a caretaker in the same way, say Freddie Ljungberg did before hiring someone else. Or there's a couple of other former players. Scott Parker's obviously at Fulham currently. Lee Bowyer's currently doing a decent job at Charlton. But it's just one of those things where there's not many people who I think want to manage West Ham right now. And the takeover bids that sort of happened in the background currently are looming on the horizon. And if that were to happen, I don't suspect Moyes would last very long.
Yeah. So Mahir, I'm really enjoying these interactions with fans. We're this season we're going to do a lot more of that, and we're going to meet great fans like Charlie here from most of the other different teams, and we're going to form that affinity with them. Understand that these clubs have the same problems we have in very many cases. Ownership, team, making the wrong moves. Hopefully, we're on the right move. And Charlie, I'm going to wish you luck for all of the other games.
Thank you.
Except the Arsenal games. But Mahir, any final words for Charlie? And of course, Charlie, invitation extended for the next 2 podcasts if you want to. If you are not able to, join us, that's fine also.
I say, did you say you were doing a post game one?
Yeah, we're doing post game. It'll be 1:30 a.m. your time.
I'll definitely be here for that. The pre-game
All right.
one, I'll be doing the watch along on Hammers Chat, so I won't be able to do that. But the post-game one, I'll come back and you can all gloat in my face about the beauty of Arsenal as I sit there sad.
Well, you know, there are those occasions. We did draw 14 games and lose 10. So
Well, there you go.
Hopefully that's not the case. Mahir, final word.
No, I would just like to thank you guys for coming along on this journey with us. You know, also we would love to have you guys back on, you know, with us, especially in any of the podcasts. I mean, any of the podcasts. And much love to everybody that watches this. Go ahead and smash the like button, get us up so we're also in that algorithm. If you breathe oxygen, and yeah, man, what can I say? You guys must have the rest of the weekend. It must just be nice. Have a nice.
Have a nice. All the way from South Africa. Great way to close it. I'm going to go to Gary as well. The problem with this fixture is Arsenal could lose it, Charlie, as well as win it. I'd have said a draw last year. Let's see how well our defensive unit is working. Yet to concede a goal, and I hope that continues. Although I did grudgingly give you one goal, Charlie. But yeah.
I'm taking that to the bank. Just so you're aware, I'm holding you to that. When we come back later and I haven't scored, I'm holding you personally responsible. Just I want you to know that now.
Perfect. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah. So and on that comment, the one thing that I have noticed is that one of the things that Arsenal has done is we've improved our depth on the back line. With Saliba coming in and with Gabriel and Luis kind of giving us another year. I feel like that hopefully will help us. And I did say a goal will come in today, but I mean I like the fact that we've been able to solidify that back with some better depth and expect to see the same as what I saw last week. Some good defense, no oops, no hiccups like we did in the last game. I think we'll hopefully you won't get any chances like that. Yeah. And still looking forward to a good game, Charlie. It's been great talking to you. I hope to talk to you later in the evening, hopefully after an Arsenal win or a really, really good game. So, yeah.
Definitely. Listen, Stephen, we're going to sort something out. I will set it up so that Mahir and Gary can take the ship next week. And I'll probably jump in the chats. That's as much as I could get away with my missus. I'm going on holiday, and I think Charlie can relate. Maybe everyone, you got to keep the other half happy as well. So
listen. 1:30. It's a rough time, but I'm up anyway, so it makes no difference for me. But it is what it is.
Listen, I want to thank you, Charlie and Gary and Matt here for joining me.
Thank you.
Great podcast. This platform is going up levels. I just feel it's getting better and better, and great guests, as I said, with Charlie on, and we will trawl the Twitterverse and the internet to bring you good guests from other teams. So maybe Charlie, if you know anyone from the other teams, just hit me up and let me know. It's always good to network. Football is a great language, a great way to cross great divides, and we all come together. We're all brothers for this game that we all love, and we have a little bit of crack with it in terms of win, lose, draw, what happens, and big up yourself, Charlie, for joining us later. So we will see you then. Until then, come on, you Gooners, up the Arsenal, and whatever West Ham say, you take it away, Charlie.
Come on, you Irons. Let's go, boys.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
See you later. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for watching, everybody.